Joe Black, live at 340 Howard Gap Road. I brought a friend with me. Talked about traffic on Howard Gap Road. Too many speeders, and we're tired of it. Some of his friends are getting run over. Rachel Raccoon got hit. No more. Chrissy Possum got hit. Betsy the Beaver got hit. Too many speeders, want something done. Passing on yellow lines, we want something done. I'm trying. He gets nervous. It's okay. He says our law enforcement doesn't stop at Airport Road. There are other people around that need some enforcement. Another thing, our beautiful mountains, oh, they look so wonderful today. People come to Fletcher to see the views, the mountains. They don't come to see our street lights, our clock tower, and our apartment complexes. They come for rural areas where these animals can run around. And I've even talked to people about the image you can see on Mount Pisgah, the bride and groom, and not many people know about that, but gosh, especially wintertime. And just, we got too many speeders. We have people that have tags from another state. I don't know how legal they are. They have registered vehicles, license or whatever. They're driving very dangerous on the roads. People on their phones. Makes him nervous. Makes him nervous. No, it's okay. It's okay. Just play dead. Okay. Well, I guess that one did down pretty good. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
All right, that was the only person we had signed up for public comments. Anybody else that wishes to speak? All right, hearing none, moving on to updates from council. If there's any updates? No updates? All right, moving on to the consent agenda. I see Eric, I'm guessing you're going to be going over the floodplain ordinance, some of the updates.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, Council. Good to see you all. Just wanted to come talk with you briefly tonight, officially requesting setting public hearing for June for consideration of some recommended amendments to the floodplain ordinance as we've discussed a couple months ago. After all the discussion with Planning Board, what's basically come forward are some fairly straightforward amendments rather than get deeply in the weeds on some more complicated ones as a start. The overall gist of the substantive changes coming forward to recommend would involve increasing the freeboard requirement, or what that is, it means is the elevation requirement above base flood elevation, increase it by 1 foot to a 4-foot freeboard requirement, up from our current 3-foot requirement. 4 already would match the highest in the state from what Chris Brown and McGill Associates has found, outside of a coastal zone, obviously. But the state model ordinance, the current version still mandates that, participating programs have a 2-foot freeboard requirement. We've been historically at 3. The state is now not mandating it, but it's starting to encourage jurisdictions to consider the 4-foot elevation requirement. Now, Planning Board they did break it up into requiring that pretty much for residential uses, more thinking out of the life safety concerns with folks in their beds at night and whatnot. Didn't recommend changing that elevation for commercial development. I think cost is a sensitivity to it, but anyway, that they did want to recommend the stricter residential elevations. The only other substantive change to come out is a more specific prohibition of a number of certain uses altogether from floodplains. We already prohibited things like hazardous materials storage, chemical storage, fuel, things like that in floodplains. That was mandated down from higher levels. Following what we saw with last fall's storm, the list that we compiled for consideration includes public and private schools, child and adult daycares, housing for the elderly, including nursing homes and other forms of assisted living, multifamily residential, public works facilities, and mission-critical facilities, which includes but not limited to things like police, fire, EMS, hospitals, emergency response, data centers, and any other facility deemed essential for important operation services and that needs to ensure continuous operation in a storm. So that was a fairly long list that we beefed up. It was never in the state model ordinance, but at workshops, the state always said you should not allow critical facilities in floodplains. So what we did was kind of expand on that and come up with that list. The draft ordinance, and if you want to be looking it over before, next month, we did put the color, hopefully in your packets, let me know, the color one showed up so you see all the highlights. Everything else that you see highlighted in there was basically something that McGill came up with, merely reconciling against the state model ordinance to just kind of tweak some language on some technical stuff like statute referrals, a few other odds and ends. We really did not spend any time talking about those with planning board. We were just, part of this was having McGill get our ordinance updated to be in compliance or match what the state model ordinance calls for. We will be asking you to set public hearing for the June meeting. I do need to send this draft to the state to look at. They have to give their blessing. I don't foresee any issue with them turning down anything that exceeds their requirement. They're always happy to see higher standards in place. But ultimately, we didn't go forward on too many other deeper things like involving fill or no adverse impact. And if Mark wants to jump in and comment, but there was a general thought that, we're as small as we are. Most of our floodplains already run through zoning districts that don't allow some of those uses, for example, but where it does run through our industrial district, we don't allow in the floodway, which is good. But in the flood fringe, we have such limited opportunities for infill development that there's just a balance to be struck, we think, as far as getting too prohibitive in such a small town. So we didn't really come forward with any stricter requirements. It's something that could bear watching in the future, but we thought we'd start with baby steps to come forward with the simple stuff. Mark, I don't know if I'm forgetting anything.
No, I think you're characterizing or summarizing it well, but I know one of the other points or discussions Eric and I had about this, just thinking about, just practically speaking, how much land that's in the floodplain that's zoned in a particular ways that's even available for development that's highly impactful or dense. And that kind of gets to some of the things Eric was saying about, there's not a lot of opportunities to build a lot of big things in there just because it becomes cost prohibitive with fill and things like that, and there's just not a lot of buildable property that's in the floodplain in Fletcher. So
one lesser consideration was, it's on your agenda in one form a little bit later, is we're watching some of these bills at the state that if some of them pass, we're going to be discussing that, or in the future possibly looking at our land use plan, because if some of those things at the state pass, we may be having to look at rewriting certain sections of our land use plan and subsequently our zoning code. And there was debate, not really a lot of debate because it's so new, but that one on downzoning, for example, one could argue that the removing of prohibiting certain uses in a floodplain, someone might at some point challenge saying, okay, you're not allowing multifamily, that's a down zoning. We're looking at it from a standpoint right now, we're amending the floodplain development ordinance, not the zoning ordinance. Now, it's semantics that the floodplain ordinance happens to be an appendix of the broader land development code, which includes the zoning semantics. But for now, we're pressing forward with recommending that, but some of this other stuff, we just bears watching over the next few months. So we'll be, whatever date the regular meeting is for June, we'll go ahead and get advertised. And for anything, strange reason, something left field comes out of the state's review, the state emergency management folks review something with our ordinance, we can just easily have you continue it to July if it needs another few weeks with the state. So.
And I'll just make one other comment on the down zoning. I know Henderson County passed a resolution, you've got it on the agenda under consent to do something similar for Fletcher, but I think, of course, that doesn't guarantee anything. You got to get it back in the General Assembly, and legislation has to get introduced, has to get passed, and, you know, hopefully not vetoed, although I doubt this would be vetoed by the governor. But if that gets back in and that gets addressed on the down zoning side, then that becomes a moot point, hopefully, that we don't have to deal with that component of the down zoning legislation that said, you know, you can't prohibit uses that are lowering the density. So.
And one of the other bills, that's just the down zone, I think there was another bill floating around that's talking about all kinds of things from state mandated density requirements, which we've, you know, got most of our zoning districts zoned for very low density. So if there's something that comes at the state level saying thou shalt have higher density, that's where we get into the need to tweak things, but we'd also have to figure out how this could affect the floodplains too, as a separate component of that. So I won't go into detail because that's all just so in flux right now.
And you'll see there's a separate, I have as a discussion item, you might want to move it to consent after tonight, but it's addressing the bills that Eric was alluding to. You mentioned the other like House Bill 765, and then there's a whole bunch of other ones out there, so.
All right, any questions for Eric or Mark? Comments? All right, sounds good. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, do we have any questions regarding the other two items on the consent agenda? All right, hearing none. Moving on to our first discussion item. Item number 6, we have an update on the ABC store. We have our chairperson, Samantha Todd, and some other representatives who are welcome to speak as well if you all so choose. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I appreciate the opportunity to update you on the continued progress of the Fletcher ABC store. I recently completed my second year as chairman of the board, and over that time, I've had the privilege of helping steer the store through meaningful growth and operational improvements. Early in my tenure, my focus was on reinforcing internal procedures, such as clocking in and out policies and ACH draft processes, to build a stronger foundation for accountability and consistency. These improvements were essential as we worked through several personnel changes, including a key transition in management. While no leadership change is without its bumps, I'm proud to say that our manager Brentley has shown consistent growth, innovation, and commitment to the store's success. He's brought fresh, forward-thinking ideas to the table, which have contributed to the positive trajectory we're on today. Speaking of progress, the numbers speak for themselves. Gross sales have grown 49% over the past 5 years and are up 3% from just last year. Our most recent performance audit highlighted this impressive trend, showing over $1 million in gross profits over the last 2 years alone. Additionally, Fletcher ABC's operating costs remain lower than those of comparable boards in our geographical region, a testament to our team's efficiency and fiscal responsibility. We currently serve 10 mixed beverage customers, and perhaps most notably, the Fletcher Board's distributions to the town are more than double the minimum mandatory distribution. That's not just compliance, it's commitment to reinvesting in our community. I also want to commend our team for how they handled one of the biggest challenges we've faced, Hurricane Helene. Thanks to the resilience and ingenuity of both management and staff, we were one of the first, if not the first, store in the region to be back up and running after the storm. That level of responsiveness goes beyond business. It reflects our deep commitment to serving the needs of the community when it matters most. In summary, the Fletcher ABC store continues to grow, operate efficiently, and serve the town with purpose and integrity. I look forward to building on this momentum and appreciate your ongoing support. At this time, I'd like to invite Board Member Brandon Olson to say a few words.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well done.
Mayor, council, Mark, Christine, member staff, the people of Fletcher. On behalf of the Fletcher ABC Board, I want to thank you for having us this evening. Sam hit the high points. Our audit came back. It's hard to express how good it. What was said to us is we are doing better than boards that operate many stores in much larger areas. So we have a lot of good things going for us. We do a lot of great things, right? We provide Fletcher ABC retail services to the community. We provide jobs to 15 employees. Many of them are Fletcher residents. And as Sam highlighted, maybe most importantly, we deliver a substantial distribution to the town of Fletcher every year. The last 5 years, that has been in excess of $300,000 per year, a total of $1.5 million in the last 5 years, more than double every year of what our statutory minimum is. But all that success has led us to the problem that we will be, hopefully, reaching out to you to help us resolve. We are right up against our statutory maximum for our fund balance. And over the last couple of years, we've talked as a board. We're looking at our competition. We're looking at Asheville. We're looking at Hendersonville. If y'all are familiar, Asheville opened a store right here on their very southern tip on Sweeten Creek Road, just at the very edge of where they're allowed to for their distance from us. And we're hoping to, in the future, drive larger distributions to the town of Fletcher. Like that's our goal. We would like to open a second store on the south end of town, close to the other exit off I-26. We started working with Pulliam Properties and looking at that, and we started setting aside funds every month to start building a down payment for that, so we can make that happen. What came out in our audit, we spoke with the auditor and about our thoughts and plans there. We need approval from the town to increase our statutory maximum fund balance. So we are, Brentley and our assistant manager, Brentley talked to Heather today. We need to put together a CIP, and we hope to present that possibly at next month's meeting, and ask for your approval to grow our fund balance beyond what we're allowed to right now.
So y'all be coming back from? Y'all be coming back with the presentation next month? Is that what
I
I'm
think
hearing?
we're going to have to. We're going to hit that. We're under the gun before we hit our statutory maximum, and then we're just going to have to like paint the walls every month because
Right.
we can't keep that money. So.
Sure, okay. Sounds good.
Excuse me, I don't know if that's something, maybe if I don't know if the bill would go through, but if a bill needed to be introduced to raise the statutory minimum, that's just a thought on that.
I'm not opposed to that. I know that made things easier, I'm assuming, if we get our legislators involved.
Yeah, as long as, they'd be willing to do it. I don't know, statewide impact on that, or if it's something that could be done
Could be just
for
a
the
local
Fletcher
bill,
AB
yeah.
system, or would it have to be something that's raised for all systems, and I have no idea what
The auditor
what the
explained it to us
pulse
that
would be.
our sanctioning organization we just needed you all's approval.
Oh, to raise that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you all just come back to us, and then you said there would be a CIP, and we would just raise it? Is that what I'm hearing, I guess?
Yeah, I
that's
haven't heard anything about this, so I haven't had a chance to, at least staff-wise, dig into, what are the requirements to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Do you mind just looking into it and getting back to us?
Yeah.
I'll figure out what we need to do on our end.
Yeah, because you referenced statutory, and so I don't know if And it may just say in there, the local governing board raises it, and
Yeah, sure.
then that's up to y'all.
And
Sounds good.
we can bring in the language that was
Yeah.
presented to us. Yeah.
Real quick, just, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead,
You
Trevor.
started, go ahead.
All right, what's the timeline? God, we're both too nice. What's the timeline on the thought for the second store?
Yeah, so we're still in the beginning phase. We've only spoken with Pulliam Properties. They came in and gave us an initial presentation 2 months ago. We're starting to look at what's available. There are some parcels. We're not even sure what's going to be available if it's in town limits, if we have to come ask for satellite annexation, if that's even a consideration that we can talk about, and then what that target is. So we're still we do not have a draft CIP. We're gonna have that in place hopefully for our meeting later this month, and those numbers hopefully will be informed by our discussions with James Wilson and the people over at Pulliam.
What's I guess the distance, you talked about there's one at Sweet Creek. What's the distance that you have to stay within, or max
think it's-
range, or close range? I don't know, that's
I
kind
want
of,
to say it's like 3.1 miles.
Well, it's 3 miles, they're 3.1.
3 miles, and they put it at 3.1.
so your next store has to be at least 3 miles away from the other store?
As the bird flies.
Okay. That's like a question I tried, I just,
And,
yeah.
you know, as a board, we talk about it. The concern is a different board could swoop in and put one right there just past GB Shoes, and they'd have it, right? So it's something we've seen it happen with us with Asheville. We'd like to avoid it from anyone else in the future. And we're doing so well, we need to figure something out, so.
Yeah, the numbers are great. Sound like y'all doing
We'd like
really
to-
well.
We will continue driving those distributions as best we can, and hopefully the success continues. We stand on the shoulders of giants, you know, there's been a lot of good decisions over the last 30 years that have led us to here. We're just fortunate to be carrying that torch.
Sounds good. Any other questions from council?
And I
Go
just
ahead, Mark.
provide just one other comment, and I've heard this a lot, that the way the store runs and kind of their standard for customer service interaction or helpfulness and the layout of the store has helped to help them be quite competitive or do well within the market. Apparently, people notice that there.
Our management staff goes above and beyond to drive exquisite customer service to all customers, but especially, you know, the customer base that comes in and really wants that special product, or we do some innovative things with ordering and trying to drive that extra for the folks that really, you know, are passionate about their ABC purchases. So we're very fortunate to have Brent Lake and the rest of our staff. Please, if you haven't, come in sometime, even if you're not shopping, just to shake hands and meet our people. They're all very kind. We're very proud of our store.
Yeah, they are very kind and do a good job. It sounds like we don't have any other questions. Samantha, thank you. Brandon, Brentley, we appreciate you all and the rest of the board.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, going on to item number 7, the resolution opposing multiple bills at the General Assembly. Mr. Manager.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this resolution that you've got in your packet, and I did a little overview on it, or memo in the explanation of kind of why, and Eric gave you some lead into it earlier, talking about just some of the other land use restriction bills as far as authority of local governing boards to try and regulate these things, since you're duly elected officials here of your constituents in Fletcher. So at the LGCCA meeting, our local government committee for cooperative action meeting, the last one, it got added to the agenda as a discussion item about this. And it was actually, I thought, a really good discussion, because we talked about, the Henderson County brought up the down zoning issue, which you have on here under consent as a separate thing. But it led into Flat Rock brought up about these other bills out there, and the, kind of the first one that drove this was House Bill 765, which does a bunch of things in it. If you get a chance to read the whole bill or parts of it, or summary information from the league, you know, it does things, and this is some of the scarier stuff, or civil penalties
Yeah,
against
for
board
elected,
members
yeah.
for vague conflict of interest. Takes away some of your authority to negotiate conditions and conditional district rezonings for a project. It does other things to limit your ability to regulate, you know, land use decisions that you typically have to do. So, and then there's a bunch of other bills that are enumerated within there. It's a Senate Bill 493, there's a 495 Senate Bill 497, 499, 688, and some of those others go into things like the ETJs, or extraterritorial jurisdictions, getting into limiting that, about accessory dwelling units in single-family home. We actually already allow that, so that one may be a moot, but it just gets into some of these things that automatically restrict or prohibit your ability to at least discuss it, you know, as a board and get input from the public. And a lot of this is being done kind of under the guise of affordable housing, which, you know, we're all trying to support and look for ways to do that. But, you know, it's a bit of a hard push from the development industry to inject these things, and without a lot of process for, you know, local governing boards to delve into this. And, you know, if the public really wants it, or if there's a, you know, good argument from the development community, then maybe consider it and do these things. But you don't have a choice, you know, under some of these bills that are being introduced. So you've got a draft. It was somewhat, Town of Flat Rock did a really good job, I thought, on this.
Yeah.
I tailored it a little bit more to Fletcher and took out some of the specific things, because we don't have as much of the, like, historical impact that they do. So you've got a copy of the resolution in here, and I don't know if there's any questions about it, and if you want to discuss it more next week, you can, or we can move it to consent, but
You know,
just kind of open it up.
I prefer to move it to consent. I mean, I think we absolutely need to do this. It strips away a lot of our control and can really fundamentally change what the town of Fletcher really looks like. I know one of the things, I've read through a lot of the bills, I know 765, I know by right, I think they were allowing 4 housing units per acre, just regardless of zoning.
Yeah,
And-
in commercial.
Right.
Which isn't always a bad thing, you know,
I think it was
exceptions.
residential.
But it just takes away compatible uses.
Yeah, and I think this is on the residential side, which right now, I mean, that's what, R3 for single-family housing for us now. So, I mean, some pretty significant changes that will change our character. Could.
Well, it takes a community trying to be unique in how they, and kind of makes it cookie cutter across the state for everybody, and that's not,
Yeah.
I agree to boot to percentages.
I agree.
So it sounds like we're okay moving this to consent agenda?
Okay.
All right, let's move it.
And then we'll send it, obviously, to our legislative delegation, and, you know, and I think our members of our delegation are hearing this, and will obviously take it under close consideration, so Senator Moffett and Representative Bauckham being our state legislative delegation members.
All right, sounds good. All right, moving on to item number 8, update on Tropical Storm Helene, Mr. Manager.
Okay. Just several things I was going to talk about. So repairs at the park, which has been our biggest response to public facility issues. I talked to you you all have approved the contract, repairing the ball fields, the multi-use court, and the dog park, and Patton Construction's well underway with it. I will say what's kind of halting or kind of stopping how quickly it probably should be going is the delivery of materials. It's taking a long time, and we just had another shipment, or the contractor did, Friday, and this was getting up the screening of the fencing. But I mean, if you come in, you can see the first field on the left. The posts are up, the screening, the actual fence is up, and it looks good. And you see the posts up on some of the other fields, but that screening material and then the completion of the backstop work is still in process and going a little bit slower than we anticipated. They've started some of the work on the courts, the multi-use courts, and have dug out and replaced some of the posts. The dog park is done, the damage to the fencing there, so that's in good shape. Yeah, if they can get the materials in, they shouldn't have a problem with finishing it this month, and that's what I've indicated at this point in the report. But it's going slower than we had hoped, but they're making progress here, at least incrementally. Once the materials come in, it goes pretty quickly. It's not a super complicated project, but I mean, that's kind of where we're at. The other, I'll talk about two other repairs that are outstanding, or one that's underway and one outstanding, and I just emailed you with an update on the last one, but the electrical was damaged severely out there, and we bid that, and A-American Electric is completed most of it. There's some work in the front and back of the park that they're still, and they may have it done as of today, I hadn't heard, but that they're nearing completion on that, because, I mean, we had extensive electrical damage in there. The panels were all, were fried. And so that's close to being done. And then the last big thing is the repair to the bridge at the back of the park. The second pedestrian bridge was in decent shape, but that first bridge that people cross in the back of the park, that being bid for repairs, and the two sections of stream bank repair that we had identified. McGill just got the bid specifications done on that, and I emailed you all Friday, I believe, that they got it to a point to let it for bid. So it was advertised this past Sunday. The bids will be due on May the 27th. We'll do a pre-bid meeting or conference out there on May the 15th with contractors or potential bidders, contractors. So, and it's not a super complicated project. We just wanted to make sure, we have hoops to jump through here with putting it in a place that we can get FEMA reimbursement, and so they kind of finally got it to that point. And they're doing some of that simultaneously while we bid it, the scope of work requirements with FEMA. So that's moving forward. Thankfully, finally, we got that at a place where it's being bid. Once it's bid and we get a good, responsible bidder and y'all approve that, it should go fairly quickly, that work. So, and that's kind of our remaining things to be done there. So if there's no questions on that, I'll talk about debris removal. We've essentially completed, and I know I talked to you a little bit back at the April meeting about this. The vegetative debris, which is basically brush, has been collected in town. Our Public Works crew has helped the county with this effort, with the county's contractor, and that's essentially done. We're basically back to normal brush pickup. And then we jumped into the fray with construction and demolition debris piles, and Public Works has essentially completed that. There may be some more that come up that we may assist with, but that's done. The county put out a deadline for May 1st for people to have their debris piles to the right-of-way or curb, and we're, trying to work with that. And then I know to get just a better update from the county on kind of where they're at, just countywide with debris removal. The municipal managers and the county manager, county engineer, we're going to meet with them next week just to kind of talk about that, because, yeah, they've made some decent progress, but there's still a decent way to go there countywide on it. So if you're hearing things from constituents, in town here, let us know. The only thing we don't have the ability, our Public Works crew, to do this, to assist the contractor, are the big stumps and some of the bigger vegetative debris that, have to rely on the contractor to do. Since I think there's still some things out there, or some people have just gone and removed it themselves because, they didn't want to wait for that, and it's been enough of a hindrance. So that's kind of where we're at with debris removal. If I get anything, pertinent or helpful from that meeting with the managers next week, I'll let you know. Then the last thing, reimbursements, we're at just over 133,000 in reimbursements back from FEMA. So, we'll have a lot more to be reimbursed, but it hasn't been as slow as we thought it would be. It was a little bit of an unknown, but some of the money has started to come in, and I know it's been a slower process for some of the other jurisdictions, and they're requesting reimbursement for a lot more expenses, like debris removal is huge for the county, and I'll use the water repairs, the water infrastructure for the city of Hendersonville, that's millions and millions there. So, so we're, at least I feel, I don't know, what you're hearing out there, we're making, I think, pretty good progress at this point. People are anxious, we know, to get things finished at the park, particularly opening up that Greenway Trail so they can cross the bridge and use the rest of the trail. So we're trying to keep that moving as quickly as possible. The good news is once we can get a contractor in place and they start, hopefully that should go relatively quickly since it's nothing real complicated to do there.
Are they going to have to do anything with that back trail you're talking about where it goes up near the creek? I know the bank's been washed away right there are they going to do any backfill right there, or?
Are you talking at Mills Gap?
Yeah, going back toward Mills Gap right there. You can see where.
Yes, that is.
It's just like you can walk off the trail off that concrete pad and just drop off.
So there's, yes. So we got the bridge repair and then 2 sections of the stream bank.
That's one of the two.
Yeah, that's one of the two. The other one is kind of across from the park shelter. You kind of go directly across there to the creek. That's one section. I think we've got the netting up there. And then the other's the one by Mills Gap is really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, one more good storm or anything of any real significance is going to completely undercut that, and you will have some failure of that cement sidewalk, basically. And that was a big project. That was back with the, it was during the Obama administration, ARA funds, I think it was called. And, I mean, that's a nice wide, that we got funding in there. It's when we did that and the sidewalk on St. John's. But yes, to answer your question, that is definitely in there. So that's one of the 2 stream bank repair parts of that whole project.
It's going to be a job.
Oh, yeah.
Have we heard waterway?
And it's,
overall?
that's not that complicated. It's riprap, it's plantings, it's matting.
So wide
Restoration.
out there too, the river's so wide.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, things look it looks
looks
different
very
through
different.
there, yeah, it's wider and it just, wow.
Debris removal in the waterways, have they done any of that through here? I know
My
Mills River,
underst-
they had to put scuba divers in. I spoke last month and said they weren't doing it. They've put scuba divers in to move the hellbenders and mussels out of the way so they can progress down the river. So I didn't know if anything had been done.
My understanding is, no, not on, so the one that should be next in Fletcher would be Cane Creek. And they have not started on that yet. No, I mean, they may have as of a couple days ago, and they hadn't told me, that's something I want to ask about.
The cornfields up there, they did some work on the cornfields, that looks really
It
good.
looks really good there. I just didn't know how much of that.
And my understanding that wasn't debris removal from the stream up there, but it may have been, and they
They
just haven't.
backfilled and graded it. It looks really
Yeah,
nice.
and they haven't updated us, but at last time I asked the county engineer, was, he didn't think they had started back there,
Okay.
but they may have. So I am gonna ask specifically about, the stream debris removal, if they can get us.
I just
an
hate to see a
update.
big log jam created and undo everything we're doing now, so.
Yeah, Cane Creek definitely needs it, obviously, from, I'll just say, from the Howard Gap Road Bridge going west and
Yes.
behind South Chase, and, I mean, I haven't seen it to walk it, but, there's debris back there that
Yeah.
needs to be removed. And they haven't really articulated any other streams, because I know there's been some others in town, residents have been interested, like, is the Kimsey going to be
Right.
done, or ones like that, so those are some of the things, as much as we can get updates on what's been done, or if they can tell us when. That's been the harder thing, is trying to determine kind of what's the plan, what's next, and it
You would think there's somebody out there that has a board that says, okay, on this day, we're gonna start. And we've
And,
done-
and I'm not saying that there isn't some level of organization of that, because obviously they have to plan for it, but it's been kind of more right as it happens, or if we press to ask questions about it, so, so maybe we'll discuss a little bit more of that this week, but,
Okay.
yeah. Good question.
Just
though, yeah.
curious.
Yeah, yes.
All right, any other questions?
And that's all I had on that.
Comments? All right, moving on to your town manager's report.
Thank you. On our town center project, I just, been talking to various groups, and one of the things we want to do is think about ways we can advertise or market that, our land is available for the mixed-use development, but also mention that we want to do a aggressive public-private partnership that, involves town resources or contributions and developer, as long as it meets, obviously, the vision and the types of development that you all are comfortable with in there. I met with an attorney who's done a lot of economic development work in the state over the years recently, Ernie Pearson with Sanford Holzhauser Law Firm. They're the ones who do bond financing or the legal work for financings that we do. And he works with another law firm, and explain what's going on here, talk about public-private partnership, and also, just get in the network to try and let other people know about our project. And so he has some contacts with investors, and so that was about a week ago I met with him. We should be getting soon our updated marketing document from Summit Marketing. Chris Burns, who's the owner, had mentioned he was trying to get approval for the architectural renderings. We were going to use some of the examples from the prior developer we entered under contract, Lewis Real Estate Group, to use some of that information as kind of a concept or example that was agreeable to the town. So I'm waiting to get that hopefully soon, and I'll make sure to share a copy with y'all, and then ways to get that out there. And then lastly, I was going to just update on McGill Associates. You know, they were doing this engineering analysis in a couple different iterations of like permitting to do development, commercial and residential. And one of the things that we're waiting for was kind of what's going to happen with our flood ordinance, because that impacts permitting with Army Corps and us. And with what you heard from Eric tonight, and, you know, unless you all want to make significant changes from that, that can kind of finalize what they were doing. So the biggest two things, no multifamily housing and raising that freeboard requirement by a foot. So they need to factor that in. But I don't think any of the other prohibited uses or anything else that Eric explained should change a lot what they're doing. So I was hoping that like by May they were going to be here, but we'll need to update that information and run their models and recommendations. So I'm hoping to have them back in the not too distant future here to kind of at least close part of the loop on that. And beyond that, I didn't have anything else on Town Center right at this moment. I didn't have anything new from Retail Strategies, but I'll reach out to them. So unless there's any questions, I'll move on to the budget update. And not a lot of update on it, because you're going to hear it Thursday morning when I present kind of the whole recommended budget. But I mean, you know, good news. And obviously, I'd be having a discussion a lot further in advance with you if it was the case. If we were looking at a tax rate increase. But you know, the budget is balanced. I've got a draft of the presentation ready. We're just tweaking that a little bit. And so no rate increase in there, so keeping our rate at 28 cents. It's about $9.98 million. It'll probably go up a little bit from there once we get our final expense in. We don't have our premium renewal yet for property and liability coverage, so it'll go up a little bit there. I did just find out a couple days ago from Jabo that the county, their transfer station, we're taking our municipal solid waste and brush there, but that they're looking at going up on the tipping fee for the transfer. So for our garbage, for municipal solid waste, it could be up to $7, which is a hit. So we don't know what it's going to be, if it's going to go up that high. But apparently we got a heads up on it. So that impacts what we budget for tipping fees. I forget what we call that line item, but so as soon as we know, and it's a commissioner's decision what that final increase is going to be, but that'll impact what we budget within Public Works for waste, disposal under MS, municipal solid waste, household garbage. So that's kind of hanging out there, but otherwise, we have all our expense requests in, the budget's balanced. You'll hear more on Thursday, but I think we're able to address kind of all the major requests where we feel our needs of the services that you fund here as an organization. I didn't really have any other updates on that.
Have we heard anything from the county about the fire inspections yet?
That's in there. I'm
That's in
glad you
there.
brought that up. I have not got a final decision. I talked to the county manager at the LGCCA meeting, and he basically gave us a heads up to budget for it. The decision hadn't been made, and I put in there was two models. One was doing it based on the square footage the commercial buildings versus a flat fee. And I think they were trying to do it on the flat fee model. I can't remember which of the two, but it was the lesser of the two, which was, one was 40,000, one was like over 60,000. So we plugged it in at the $40,000 amount, it might have been over 40,000. So,
I know Trevor had a good idea about working with, if I'm not mistaken, the Fletcher Fire, so we may want to start coordinating with them. I know you can maybe bring it up at the board meeting.
Yeah, I can bring it back at the budget right there of, just talking with the fire chief, they're still entertaining the idea, if that's the route, if we're gonna spend 40,000, they're ready to get to the 40,000 right there, so they can have more manpower and staffing.
I got
And-
Jimmy, he's
Yeah,
got the experience.
and they could start it as soon as July 1, it sounds like, too, so that might be something we probably need to talk to Fletcher, because I know municipalities got to do this, and it's either pay the county, hire on person, or contract with a third party, which that'll be our third party right there, so.
Yeah, good idea.
I like it.
we just need to have some decent assurance of how much it's gonna cost them versus the county doing it.
Even if we match, if it's 40,000, I'm pretty sure they can do, if it's more, that'd be something different, but I think they will be willing to entertain the idea of whatever you're paying the county.
Yeah, they can do it at the same rate. I agree. Let's do it with them.
Keep it in-house.
Yep. We can, and we can talk about it more at the,
Budget.
the budget. We call it a retreat, but it's more like a budget workshop or budget meeting. We used to do this on Saturdays, and it's evolved. Thank you for doing it on a weekday. Yeah, that was Christine grimacing over there. It's nice to do that during the week. Okay, thanks for bringing that up.
Sure.
Let's see, I didn't have anything else on the budget in advance of Thursday. Just a reminder, 8 o'clock Thursday morning, we'll have breakfast for you here set up.
Breakfast buffet.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so here, and we'll start at 9, so for the meeting. And then the last thing, I know we've talked a lot about it, but it starts tomorrow, our Fletcher Farmers Market.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so we have a lot of vendors signed up, and really looking forward to it, and to see how this goes, and hopefully there'll be a lot of business out there, and we'll make tweaks to this thing as it goes along to help it be as successful for the vendors and for the public as much as possible. But that starts tomorrow from 3 to 6, and it'll be, just south of our south parking lot over here by the green maintenance building, and it'll run through the end of September. So these things typically are kind of May to October, but
Early season.
yeah, so we're gonna run it through the end of September, so.
25 vendors tomorrow.
That's my understanding, still is 25. So,
Wonderful. Is there like a visualization that maybe y'all have about what it's gonna look like? I mean, what?
like a layout.
Yeah.
If
If not, it's okay, I'll see it tomorrow, but.
They probably have, and I hadn't seen the
That's okay.
layout on there. I don't know if you noticed the sign by the clock tower. They did one up there that went out, I don't know, since today it went, but I saw it driving by.
I missed that.
Yeah.
I missed that too, yeah.
Yeah, it's up there on
Before I'm
20,
like,
it's on 25.
I missed it.
We will put lights on it, flashing lights or something. Blue light
Missed it too.
special at 4. But yeah, they did a nice sign, it's on there. It's one of those kind of banner ones, you put on
Okay.
the
Metal
stakes, the metal stakes, and so you gotta kind of make sure
Oh,
it
I missed that.
stays
Yeah, hold on, all of
taut
us.
there, and keep the shirt
I can't
sagging.
run crawling, I didn't see it.
But, yeah, it's right up there, but, yep.
All right, sounds good.
Question?
Any other questions, comments from more? All right, any other business from council?
Nope.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
We have a motion to adjourn, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We are adjourned.